All right, we're on page 27 in the book, and today we are going to be finding midpoints and endpoints on a number line and coordinate plane. We're going to be finding midpoints and endpoints on a number line and on the coordinate plane. So the first key concept is up on the top of page 27, midpoint formula. This is on a number line. Is equal to, you take your x sub 1 plus your x sub 2 and you divide it by 2. If you're finding the middle of a segment, you add your endpoints together and you divide that sum by 2. It gives you the average of the points, right? Well, the average of the points will be the middle. Okay? Now, while we're here, let's talk about endpoint. And again, this is on the number line. All right. This will take effect when you're given a midpoint and one endpoint, and you're asked to find the other endpoint. So in order to find an endpoint, we're going to say that your x at the middle is equal to your x sub 1 plus your x sub 2 divided by 2. And write this, make sure you have this down, that this x sub m means coordinate of the midpoint. Your x sub m equals the coordinate of the midpoint. So if you're asked to find the midpoint, of AC, and you're given a segment with endpoints A and C, and if A is your negative 13, C is at positive 2, then your midpoint, I'm going to use M, the midpoint would be equal to, or let's use this. Let's say our x sub m is equal to, we take the two coordinates of the endpoints, we add them together, So negative 13 plus 2, and then we divide it by 2. So negative 13 plus 2 is equal to negative 11 divided by 2 is negative 5.5. So right here in the middle at negative 5.5 would be our x at the middle, or our midpoint. And then I want you to look down at midpoint formula for the coordinate plane. Midpoint on the coordinate plane is the same formula, but you have to do it for the x values, and then you have to do it again for the y values. So midpoint on the coordinate plane, you take your x sub 1 plus your x sub 2. Take the two values, the two x values, you add them together, you divide it by 2. And then you take your two y values, y sub 1 plus y sub 2. You divide it by 2. And that will give you the coordinates of the midpoint. So if you're finding the midpoint of xz, if x is at 3.5 and z is at -7, -8. All right, so we need to find our midpoint, our x at the midpoint first. So I'm going to use this terminology. I'm going to say that x at the midpoint is equal to, here's my x sub 1 and my x sub 2. And the 5 here is my y sub 1 and my y sub 2. So to find my x value at the midpoint, I'm going with 3 plus -7. I'm going to divide it by 2. That gives me x at the midpoint. And then my y at the midpoint is equal to 5 plus -8 divided by 2. All right, so here we go. X at the middle. 3 plus -7. -4 divided by 2. We got x at the middle is -2. And then our y at the middle, -5 plus 8. That's going to be -3 divided by 2. -1.5. So now this is how we list our midpoint. Our midpoint is at -2, -1.5. All right, so any questions on finding the midpoint on the number line or finding midpoints on the coordinate plane? All right, your practice for today is going to be on page 32. 33 through 44. And again, make sure you're checking the odd answers in the back of the book.